Welcome to the Startup Help Desk. We answer questions that you submit about building businesses, starting companies, and the meaning of life. We have a panel of successful founders, entrepreneurs, investors who have learned lots of hard lessons, and we're here to share them with you to answer all the questions that are keeping you from building your business. My name is Sean Burns. I was a founder of companies for 20 years of Flurry and Outlier. A few years ago, I switched over to the investing side, and I am joined on our panel today, as always, by Nick and Ash.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ash Rust, and I'm a startup investor based in San Francisco. I mostly invest in companies based in the US and Europe at the idea stage through my fund, Sterling Road. I've also worked at places like Trinity Ventures and Bullpen Capital as an advisor. Before investing, I was an entrepreneur myself, most notably an early employee at the social media analytics company Clout, as well as the co-founder and CEO of SendHub. These days, I spend most of my time coaching founders and have helped more than 1,500 startups over the years.
Hey, this is Nick Melionis. I'm co-founder and CEO of a startup called Navi. We are the gateway to the innovation economy. Our solutions teach an organization's personnel how to use AI to break down complex challenges. I've supported my fair share of startups, orgs, and internal innovation teams, and I'm hyped to hop into today's episode.
And all the questions on the Startup Help Desk, as always, are submitted by people just like you. So if you have questions, please head to thestartuphelpdesk.com or find us on X/Twitter at thestartuphd and submit your questions. We would love to include them in a future episode. Today, all the questions that were submitted, we grouped together, are all about growth. If you have a business, hopefully you want to grow. If you're growing, you're probably not growing fast enough. It's an eternal problem of business. Just as a quick qualifier that growth is not an great unsolved problem. I'm sure we don't have the specific answers for you, but hopefully in answering these questions, you can pull out things that become...
You mean you don't have the answers, Sean?
No, I have them. I'm just not going to share them. The great thing about growth is once something's working, you don't tell anybody. You can't tell anybody your secrets, man. Come on.
Not until it stops working, right? And then you can disclose.
Then you can write your autobiography. Perfect.
Exactly.
Later on, we'll talk about the greatest growth hacks we've ever seen. But let's start off. Okay, first question. All of our customers come from paid ads, Google, Facebook, etc. It's working well, but my friends tell me I have to find other ways to acquire customers. Is that true? Ash, what do you think, man?
Well, don't listen to your friends. I don't know who they are. So if you're down at the Bridge Club and they're giving you advice on your startup, you may want to consider who you're talking to.
What if your friends are your board members? You're just really friendly with your board members.
Right. That's probably a different relationship issue. So, yeah. The answer to this question is no. Plenty of companies do actually use ads successfully. Good examples are, mobile gaming companies. But it is not easy at all, as no distribution channel is. And with ads in particular, it's extremely high risk because once you get to a position where maybe you have budget problems, and most companies do, the reliance on ads can quickly become a death spiral because you don't have enough budget anymore to buy ads, and thus you generate less revenue. So you generate less revenue, so you don't have enough budget to buy more ads, and so on and so forth. So it can become a very difficult situation very quickly when you go through a lot of the natural rhythms of a company if you're relying on pay-per-click ads. And most of the biggest companies tend not to have grown through pay-per-click ads. They've usually had better products, and once they're massive, they perhaps do more generalized branding. I think the other point I would make is that no distribution channel, regardless of what it is going to be forever. Most of them top out or fail to scale, or you have to move to something else. So I always recommend running two at once with your time split 75%, 25%.
Do you think it's reasonable to say that paid ads perhaps are more fragile than other channels? Simply because algorithms can shift, you're ultimately beholden to
SEO
costs.
is just as vulnerable, and so is cold email. SEO obviously has a lot of volatility.
Conferences can get canceled. Every channel is fragile, man. I think Ash is right. If you have just one channel that's working in one way, I would very quickly figure out something else because the music can stop at any moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with that. I was thinking that I do think that paid ads have some well-documented vulnerabilities for sure. Part of the moment here, though, is to celebrate that you actually have found a channel that's working. And
yes, exactly. Yes. You're ahead of 90% of the market.
Most people never get this opportunity.
That is exactly the case. And so, one, it's fabulous to be in a spot where people can critique your working growth strategy. And so good for you. I think the theme here, of course, is that any one growth channel can be fragile. And so whether it be paid ads, whether it be you've got a referral system that's working, or you've got content that's working, relying on any one channel introduces a significant amount of risk. And so the sweet spot here is to look at growth in more of a portfolio strategy. You could find one that works and say, well, let's keep investing in it because it's working. At the same time, find a way to invest some of your time strategically figuring out what other growth engines could work. Could you tap into referrals? Could you build content, which, by the way, takes a lot of time in order to achieve those compounding gains? So steadily start chipping away and figuring out what other channels can you add to your growth mix.
I will just add very quickly, when people say that Google ads are working, what working means is that you're paying less to acquire a customer than they pay you. There are people who think it's working because, hey, I run all these ads and I get customers. But if you do the math about how many ads you have to run for one customer to convert, like your customer acquisition cost can be actually higher than your value of a customer. And all of a sudden it isn't really working. It's more like a net negative platform. So working means at least you're breaking even. Hopefully you're making money.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you going to let mathematics ruin a good story?
I will say there was once a company, I learned a lot about this from the mobile gaming market that Ash mentioned. And it's interesting how a lot of those companies are so good at knowing exactly how much they're likely to make off a customer and how many ads they have to show and what they're willing to pay, that they have almost unlimited budgets for this. They'll run ads indefinitely, especially, cost per click ads, because they know that they will make 10 cents. No matter how much they're spending, they're going to make 10 cents more than that. It's really fascinating. If you get good at this, it can be a huge driver, but it is very hard to get good at it.
Don't you always worry that, so of course you want to be tapped in and find these ever evolving and changing growth channels, but there is always the musical chairs type of risk where at some point it does stop working? Or is it, how do you navigate that?
I mean, yes, there's risk. I said it before, have lots of channels because, oh my God, the number of companies where like, I had this one channel, it's working, and then it stopped working. We couldn't figure out anything else. You never want to be in that position where the music stops. There's no chairs left. So I never bank everything on a single channel. That would be like, I would drive me nuts. Talk about like really high risk endeavors, man. Okay.
Let's have two distribution channels so you can at least sleep at night.
There it is.
That's a good mantra. All right, let's move on to our next question. Most of our customers come to us inbound, which works, but is very unpredictable. Is that normal? And is there a way to make inbound more predictable?
Yeah, I love this. Early traction is often a result of your existing network becoming your first customers and users. It's a result of some luck and, of course, a good dose of hustle and knocking on doors. And so when it comes to inbound, it's not surprising to hear that it is unpredictable. The question is, how do you build a system that can transition you from lucky to repeatable? And I think it really starts with the fundamentals. Talk to your users, uncover how they're finding you, what motivated them to find you, and then ultimately what motivated them to click and take action. Focus close. And so figure out and commit to your ideal customer profile so you know you're not chasing everyone. And then ultimately start spotting some patterns. Figure out, is it content that's driving someone to you? Is it referrals? Is it some other channel that you're unaware of? Seek those patterns, then figure out how you can test them further to figure out if you can transition this from luck into repeat method. So I think that's the way to start cultivating luck and making it repeatable here.
Well, I would also go back to, let's first off celebrate, oh my God, if you got inbound working, that's amazing. That means people are coming to you. Your acquisition cost is, I don't know, negligible, if not zero. Like, that's fantastic. Do more of that. That's amazing. There are not many companies.
But people usually know where it's coming from outside of their product hunt launch.
That was the most loaded
that's
question.
Honestly what I hear. I only say it because when I'm talking to the folks that I work with, this comes up a lot. It's like, oh yeah, we got our first 5 customers from inbound, but we've been posting about our founder journey on LinkedIn, and then we had a pretty good launch on Product Hunt. What do you think we should do next? I mean, I don't know.
Okay, that is what Ash is describing is not really inbound, and you should be very concerned. I have seen a bunch of companies where inbound comes as a result of a few things. One is your competitors' advertising. So I've known a few companies where they got a ton of inbound because all their competitors were running all these ads and promotions and whatnot, and customers wanted to look at more than one option, and so they got a lot of inbound for that reason. That's good. It also is a concern because it means that they're hearing from your competitors first, but it's not bad if they're talking to you, obviously. The other reason that people may see a lot of inbound is if you have a content marketing strategy and people are used to reading your stuff and they like it a lot. And I once had at Outlier, my last company, we had a really good content marketing strategy. And I talked to this one team I think it was at Zillow, and they were like, "We love your newsletter. I have no idea what your product is, but we want to try it. Can we set up a meeting?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. Newsletter for the win." I will say this though, inbound is always unpredictable because it's usually a lot of factors you don't control. Maybe it's how often your competitors are promoting themselves or these things or that things. It always feels noisy. The way you make it not noisy and more predictable is you blend it with other channels. Sitting around and hoping your customers keep coming to you is not a good idea. It is great if they do come to you, but I would consider that to be like bonus. And your job is to find other channels that you can turn up, because you can't turn inbound up to 11. Like you can't turn it up and down. Often whatever drives them to you, you don't even control in the first place. So find some other channels that will help balance it out and consider inbound as a great benefit. And by the way, if you really do have customers coming to you and you're good at closing them, your customer acquisition costs go down. You can afford to spend more on things like advertising because you get all these free inbound coming in. That's great. I hope it lasts forever. It won't, but we can dream, I guess.
Sean, would you say that inbound is essentially there's something that happens beforehand, some channel, but you just don't know what it is. And then now, of course, you've got a lead, you've got an opportunity here. And it really
so
only
it's an untrackable lead, basically.
Exactly.
That's what
until you figure it out.
Ask them.
Right?
I've had a lot of inbound. You just ask. The reason I found out this company just loved our newsletter, you can ask them. It's not like it's an impossible to discover answer. It might not be super obvious, and it's certainly difficult to predict if it will continue.
But the magic is it is telling you to now go deeper on some possible channel. Because if you're finding out from the newsletter, that's a great situation.
1,000%. And by the way, content marketing is very hit or miss. I generally don't always recommend it for companies because it's a lot of time investment. It's hard to get it to work. I've been lucky to find ways to make it work for my companies, but people pursue content marketing because they're like, "Oh, it's free. We'll spend some time and publish some stuff, and then all these customers will come to us." And that almost is never how it works. Like we could do a whole episode on content marketing, but man, like I would almost rather people have other channels that they can turn up rather than spend all their time writing blog posts and doing podcasts. You guys know anybody who does a podcast? I don't know if you've heard. Like
I don't. I usually those kinds of people aren't the ones you want to hang out with.
Agreed. Stay away from those podcasts. Those guys are crazy. Oh man. Okay, Nick. Any more questions on the queue for today?
Yeah, let's do this. This is a question that we received from a founder. They said, "Our customers all seem very happy, but we never get any customer referrals. Is it normal to not have any referrals?" Sean, want to take the lead here?
Well, first, it depends a little bit on the industry you're in. There are some industries where the customer, they just don't talk to each other because they're highly competitive or there's lots of reasons. The pharmaceutical industry is notorious for this. Like the pharma companies don't talk to each other. Like they just don't have any interaction. So even if they wanted to refer people to you, it just doesn't happen, right? And there's also sparse industries where maybe the people in these customers of yours, they just don't have a lot of friends or network connections that to even spread it to. So that does happen. I don't think it's super common. There's only a handful of industries I've ever seen that's true of. So in most cases, you'd hope people are happy enough to tell their friends, but you have to realize the bar for telling people, recommending a product to somebody is really high. Like you're putting a lot of your personal relationship capital on the line. What if they have a bad experience? And so it's not enough for your customers to be happy. They have to be ecstatically thrilled that this is the best thing ever. And so they feel like they're doing a favor for somebody in their network by telling them about your product. And so you might have, happy customers who are not churning because your product is fine and it works, but like they're not so ecstatically happy they're going to tell other people about it. But you can, one of the most interesting questions I think you can do during a customer call is ask them what it would take for them to recommend it to other people. And they don't tell you the truth because it's an awkward kind of thing, but you always learn interesting things about where that bar is and what it takes for them to recommend things to other people that they know. I don't even know how like accounting systems. I don't think we talked about that before. I don't even know if people recommend accounting systems to their friends, but there's lots of other products that they do. Most personal productivity tools hopefully grow through referrals quite rapidly because your customer acquisition costs would be too high otherwise. I don't know, Ash, what do you think? You worked with tens of thousands of millions of companies. You probably have
very funny. Yeah, I'm sure those accountant conferences are absolute bangers, so I'm confident they're sharing all kinds of information.
It's the open bar, man. Woo!
Yeah, exactly.
The Startup Help Desk brought to you by NetSuite.
Open bar and double entry accounting. What a crazy mixture. All right. So yeah, from my perspective, if you think that your customers are seemingly happy, but they're not so happy to refer, then I would run an NPS survey. So we need to find out how happy people are. NPS is a really good pulse check on your company's, current satisfaction levels amongst your customer base. And then from that, you can usually use your analytics to figure out who are your most engaged customers and perhaps who are your most happy customers. Not always the same group of people. So people have to use it and they have to use it every day. So they're very engaged, even if they're not enjoying it. And then some people who are very happy with the product maybe are using it less. So we need to talk to both of those groups and find out what makes you successful with them, what you're failing on, and then also ask them for referrals. And I think that Sean's example of the question there is really good, and it pains me to say it, but yes, asking them what it would take in order for them to recommend to another person is a really good barometer, even if it's not necessarily going to be accurate. But if you believe your customers are happy, don't be afraid of surveying them and finding out specifically just how happy they are.
It's so true. I can't tell you how many companies, they look at their analytics and they're like, oh, these customers use this feature a lot. They must love it. And they talk to the customer. And it's like, it's broken. So they're like literally rage clicking to try to do the same thing over and over again because it doesn't work. And they're the opposite of happy, but they're the most engaged.
Not a great referral coming on that front. It seems that the real problem at the heart of this too is that referrals just don't happen automatically. And so then they require intentional design. You need to ask for it. You need to ask what would it take for somebody to do a referral. And then in some cases, you need to make it easy and also offer incentives and offer different ways to drive referrals. And I bring that up because I wanted to ask you both, have you seen any instances of startups you've supported where their referral motion has led to some fantastic outcomes?
Well, I went through Y Combinator about 150 years ago, and there was always this hilarious sort of meme within the community that if you asked Paul Graham about growth, he would say, have you tried a Dropbox style referral system? Because it was so successful for them. But obviously that sort of like, where both sides get a small gift as a result of the referral doesn't work with everything, even though pretty much every company tried it at some point over the last 10 years or so. So my personal feeling is that your product has to be good enough that people want to refer it for street cred and status versus there being some kind of financial or similar incentive.
In our new accounting system, you get single entry for free, but if you refer a friend, you get double entry. Congratulations. Oh, man. In our closing minutes, I'm curious if you guys have any favorite growth stories. I'll start by sharing mine. Years ago, there was a social network called Path. It doesn't exist anymore, but it existed in this age where social networks were growing. And at the time, a lot of people were trying to use things like Facebook ads to grow, but Facebook ads got very expensive very quickly. And Path was just really innovative. And what they realized was, what was expensive was English language Facebook ads. But what was cheap were Spanish language Facebook ads. And so their entire marketing budget went into Spanish language Facebook ads. And they were able to grow really fast for a very affordable cost. And I was like, it's so simple. It was such a simple observation that nobody else made that they meant it. Obviously, it didn't work well enough for the company to survive. But in their growth stage, man, it lasted it was funny because it was a great mystery. Everybody kept talking about how is Path growing? How are they doing it? It came out the story on how they were doing it came out after somebody figured out and it all blew up, and then Spanish language ads became unaffordable because everybody jumped on the bandwagon. But yeah, it lasted for at least a year. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sounds to me like when people say like, oh, well, if you put an emoji in a push notification, you get a 5% better response rate. Yes, but only for like 3 weeks. And then
it was total arbitrage for sure.
The thoughts that came to mind while evaluating this are more so just themed around what are the times when I've either referred a product that I love or tactics that have worked for us when building businesses. And I've always been a fan of earned and owned media, building case studies, using that as the engine to celebrate your outcomes, celebrate your customers, get great brands. And then that ultimately is fuel for when it comes to marketing, fuel to drive sales conversations. And so for me, great case studies with great brands, always a critical aspect of growth. And then aside from that, I think that there's so many newsletters out there, but when they are really good, I do refer people to them. And I will say that both of your newsletters are ones that I have encouraged folks.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up, Nick. Well. The check is going to be in the mail, bud. No problem at all. Nice job. Good product placement.
So that's me right there. Case studies and a really good newsletter. You can count me in for them.
That's right. Head over to breakingpoint.tech for the Breaking Point Mind newsletter. I'm not paying Nick because I need to keep my customer acquisition costs low.
No hesitation. I see how it is. It's a new day.
Oh, man. Good times. Good times. Okay. We talked a lot about growth. Hopefully this leads to the podcast doubling in listenership, which will be fantastic. To go from 3 listeners to 6 is going to be huge for us. I look forward to that. As always, Ash and Nick, thank you for growing along with us.
Hey, thank you both. Thank you, growth.
It's been emotional.
Did you just say thank you, growth? I'm sorry.
Lord.
I'm handing a baton of bad jokes to Nick. He has now won the baton of bad jokes. I officially retire.
Good night, Sean. Good night, Nick. Good night, Moon.
Okay, if you have a question we would love to answer in a future episode, head over to thestartuphelpdesk.com or find us on X/Twitter at thestartuphd. Ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more episodes we can have, and we do love having our episodes. For now, the Startup Help Desk is closed, but good luck in building your business.